Hello everyone, my name's Adam Oliver. I run Adam's Animation Academy, and I'm here in this third video to talk about Toon Boom Harmony Premium and talking specifically about animating in the software. So if you've seen the other two videos, the ones that come before this, you will have seen how I've talked about drawing, a general introduction to the software, and also posing and moving things and setting them in position in a cutout rigged style. When we come to animating, I'm talking more about going beyond the posing. So how do we do some in-betweening? How do we set some favoring or some easing in and easing out? All the other things you might want to do with animation to get the scene from being just kind of like glorified storyboard poses into something that plays back and gives the illusion of life. For this example, I've given a couple of simple poses on this timeline. So I've just got this one here and this one here. So I've deliberately put in some quite high contrasting poses. There's a few things going on with deformers in here, where this leg is bending, as is this one, using the same deformers. Just a note on this, it might be a little bit over your head if you're new to the software, but a deformer basically will apply a deformation, shall we say, to the drawing itself. Now that deformation is going to twist and skew and alter the drawing. If you change the drawing and therefore the deformer itself, you can't tween over that because the software is still 2D. It doesn't know that this thing has to be the same as the other thing, and it can't bridge that gap. So you're going to have to do a little bit of manual work if you switch a deformer over a tween. So that's just a word of warning. It's not a magic button just yet, but it is a massive time saver. So what's the process to go from these two poses into a bit of animation, and how do I in between them? Well, first of all, it's quite simple. You're just going to click the first frame and press this little wiggly blue S line, Control and K, Command and K on a Mac, and that's going to set a tween. Now, there's nothing too different about that from other software, but one of the things that's nice about Toon Boom is it gives you some presets in here. So you can set some easing according to what the graph would look like, or you can use the easy ease out or the quick ease in buttons, quick ease in, quick ease out. So I'm going to do a quick ease out. And you can see it's giving me something to work with already. There's a few things that I need to tidy up, but that's cool. And then I have the option of doing it for both sides, or I can type in the actual values themselves. So I can set the ease out or ease in. Or I can press this button here, which is going to give me the option of typing in a number. So I could press 80, apply, and you can see there's a graph there. So it's going to heavily ease into this side, and it's easing out on this side 33%. Okay. So there's this gentle ease out and quite a heavy ease into this key. That's going to give me something to work with. Now, a lot of people in Toon Boom Harmony will, at this stage, set it to 2s because you get a bit more control over the 2s. It's obviously less work than working on 1s, and it saves you having to go through every single last line and adjust the curve and the tangents of these easing settings. There's a really good button in Toon Boom that just does that for you. So you can just select your range and click this button, which is Create Keyframes On. And just press the iteration you want. I want it on 2s, and there you go. And I'm just going to move this on a frame. And now it's a much more kind of like staccatoed, kind of more punctuated style. And you can see how these drawings are changing here on the hands. That's quite an easy one to fix. You just have to go in and choose at which point you want the drawing to swap. So if I wanted it to swap on this big gap here, I'm just going to press O with it selected. Again, like I said, one of Toon Boom's main features is that you can quickly jump to a layer inside the timeline without having to scroll through. So now that drawing change is hidden. And maybe I'm going to do the same for this hand. So that was just O again to jump to it. And now I've got my drawing change correct. It becomes much easier now for me to correct things like the leg here. So I'm just going to turn on the deformer so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to tweak this a little bit. So, oops, don't want to move the actual thing itself. Just going to move the leg and match it up. And so these are the sort of tweaks that you have to do as you work with the software. If I wanted to work from this position here, to here. I've got a little bit of a hip variation there. But if it wasn't working, you can easily go in and say, well, okay, I want to readjust the tweening on this. So I just pressed B to select. I'm going to remove that keyframe. I'm going to set the easing again. And then I could adjust it and set the custom easing on those frames. For now, though, this is going to do fine. But you always have the option of adjusting. We can also do things like offset the arm very easily. Just pressing B, the letter O to jump to it. And then maybe I want to offset this animation. So I'm just going to drag all these frames on. And then I could probably create a keyframe here where it starts to move and quite easily, move things around. It's very helpful if you have, you want to offset something like a hand and some movement on an arm. This one's quite a big move, so it's kind of going to require a bit more work than just a simple drag. But that's a good thing to remember with this software, is that nothing's just going to, like any 2D animation software, nothing's just going to be automated, because if it's automated, everybody's work's going to look the same. So it gives you the tools to speed up your own customizing, your own animation skills, but it's not going to do all the job for you straight out of the box, because no animation is the same. And, if you did that, it would probably not look too great either. So that's offsetting. That's very easy to do, to just quickly offset something if I was so inclined. The next thing I want to talk about is the onion skinning function. Now, onion skinning in Toon Boom is very powerful. You have the basic onion skin, which is just going to show you the onion skins of whatever's selected. Okay, so if I press B on this arm, you can see it's onion skinning those. I've got the little range here, and there's nothing more than that. You can lock the onion skin on anything by going to the actual layer itself and hitting this little onion skin button. So then even when it's not selected, it's going to onion skin. Otherwise, by default, Toon Boom will only onion skin things that are selected. And you can see it's just showing that arm. Okay. The other more powerful option is the advanced onion skin. And you can hit the plus icon anywhere on these panels and on these tabs and just turn on the onion skin there. You can see I've adjusted these sliders. These are linked by default. And then anything you click on is going to, like, for example, this head. It's going to onion skin and show me the position. Now, this is pretty useful, but maybe this is too much information. In the advanced onion skin, you can also adjust the opacity. You can click this little hamburger menu and change it from original colors to colored. And these colors here are the ones that it's using. Or you can choose the colored outline, which is really handy, especially if you've got a very complicated drawing or rig, and you can see things much clearer. So the advanced onion skin, available via this button here, and then more options in the panel itself, is going to give you a whole new range of options to see your animation and check your arcs. Next thing I want to talk about is playback and playback range. Toon Boom has some very useful, quick tools to help you check your animation and test it as you are working on it. The first one is just the simple start and stop buttons. They don't actually look much like buttons because they are text, but if you move your mouse over, you'll see they are. So I could say, here I want to stop, and there's the start. It's a little tiny black triangle and a lighter gray area. And then I can turn on the loop function and just press play, and it's going to play it back for me. Now, this is really, really handy if you have a section maybe further down your timeline. So if I go back to my library, bring in my run cycle, I might want to set my start on 20 and my end. And then I can just play just my run cycle and work on this with everything else going on still in my scene. I'm just not currently looking at it. So the playback range is a really useful tool. Toon Boom has the ability to allow you to customize all the shortcuts just as you like them. If you go to edit preferences or edit keyboard shortcuts or Harmony Premium and keyboard shortcuts on a Mac, you'll see a full list of your shortcuts, which you can search for whatever you want in there. And then you can also choose from pre-made lists, which is similar to other software to help you cross over. There's by default the less than or greater than arrows, or the comma and the full stop key will allow you to go frame by frame through the timeline. But if you want to jump key to key to key, you can use the keyboard shortcuts, which can be customized. If you search for go to next keyframe or previous keyframe, you'll find them set up so I can jump through, and it's taking a 2-frame gap and just doing it in one click. So it's going to jump to that next frame there and go on to my run cycle. And this is really helpful if you just want to go through your keys, which are timed out on the timeline, but you want to check the posing of them when you're in the animation stage. When you've done your animation, you're probably wondering, how do you export it? Well, there's a couple of options available to you, as you probably expect. The one that I personally find very easy to use is just File and Export Movie. Every animation software has a way of exporting, and this is pretty standard. You've also got Animated GIF or GIF, depending on how you pronounce it, and lots of other options. There is a render preview on the timeline here, which will render you frames into your project folder, which will then open a player and allow you to go through them frame by frame. The real showstopper, shall we say, is the right node, though. And this is very unique to Toon Boom Harmony Premium. If you were to hit enter or return, and you can search for the right node, your new file will have this by default. But the right node basically is kind of like a render node that whatever it's attached to, it will render. So you can have multiple per scene. Now, if I click the little yellow box on the node view to open the right node settings, I can choose to render the frames one by one into a specific folder. I can also choose to render the movie at the same time, or one or the other. I can have enabling options only over a certain resolution if it's a high resolution part of the scene that you don't need in previews, but you want when you are rendering the final version. And you can also have multiples. So copy and paste this right node and attach this to this character. This goes for the display itself as well. So if I was to copy and paste this display, try again, we will have a different view from this character one. So I'm basically labeling this. It's kind of like a little TV that you're going to look through. So at the moment I have this display showing the character, which has a floor line and a color card, which is a background, this blue background. But if I was to switch my display, which is exactly what you would see through this right node if you were to render it, to the character, I'm not going to see any of these things, the floor line or the background, because this is attached just to the character. And that's really, really helpful if you want to be able to render out each character individually, certain parts of the character individually, and so on. You can break down your scene into all the different compositing elements that you need if you're going to use other software to put the scene together. To render the right nodes, it's just a simple export render right nodes, and it will give you the options of the frame range, and it will just go through all the right nodes one by one. So you could have 100 right nodes in there targeting different folders, cloud folders, server folders. It doesn't matter. You can also use watch folders if you've got compositing happening in other software, and it's going to just do those at the click of a button. So again, one of Toon Boom Harmony Premium's killer features, especially when you're exporting your animation.